Two men, a porch in rural Tennessee. Between them, a disagreement that's been building for 3 years. One of them built a construction company from nothing. The other walked away from a 6-figure salary to homestead on 40 acres. They respect each other. They don't agree on much. And tonight, they're going to settle something that economists, philosophers, and preppers have been arguing about for centuries. Chapter 1. The trucks. The builder speaks first. You know what I don't understand about your setup. You left a good income. You grow your own food. Solar panels, a well, chickens, a root cellar, and you still drive to town every week to buy things you can't produce yourself. The homesteader doesn't flinch. That's not the point. The point is, if the trucks stop coming, I eat. You don't. The builder leans back. The trucks haven't stopped in my lifetime or yours. They stopped for 3 million people in Argentina. In 2001, the pause. All right, tell me about Argentina. Chapter 2. Argentina 2001. Music fades in low. Documentary tone. Here's what most people don't know about the Argentine economic collapse. The banks didn't close. The stores still had food. The problem was something far more insidious. The money existed, but you couldn't touch it. When the peso collapsed, the government froze every bank account in the country. Citizens were allowed to withdraw 250 pesos a week. That's it. Your savings, your life's work, visible on a screen, completely out of reach. Grocery shelves were stocked. Wallets were empty. So what did people do? They went back to something older than banks, older than currency, older than the modern economy itself. They bartered. Within months, 5,000 barter clubs had opened across Argentina, called clubs de truque. At their peak, somewhere between 2.5 and 7 million people were trading through them. A psychologist counseled your family. You gave her eggs. A mechanic repaired a washing machine. He took home 6 eggs. An accountant filed your taxes. Someone fixed his car. No banks, no pesos, no government permission required. The homesteader leans forward. And that proves that self-reliance matters. It proves, he says, that when the system breaks, the people who survive are the ones who can do something useful, without asking permission from a bank, a government, or a supply chain. Chapter 3. The wrong definition. The builder is quiet. Then he says something the homesteader doesn't expect. I agree with everything you just said, but I think you've got the wrong definition. You think self-reliance means not needing anyone, growing your own food, pumping your own water, living off the grid. And I respect that. But let me ask you something. How many of those Argentine barter clubs were one man on 40 acres, trading with himself? None. Exactly. They were networks. The psychologist needed the mechanic. The mechanic needed the farmer. The farmer needed the accountant. Nobody survived alone. They survived because they had something to offer, and they knew people who needed it. The homesteader sits with that. So you're saying self-reliance is actually about other people. I'm saying self-reliance isn't isolation. It's capability. There's a difference. Chapter 4. The builder's argument. The builder lays out his case. I build houses. I employ 11 people. I know how to frame a wall, pour a foundation, wire a panel, and negotiate a contract. If the dollar collapses tomorrow, yes, I lose my contracts. My receivables become worthless. My material costs explode. But do you know what doesn't disappear? The fact that I can build a house. The fact that 11 people know how to work beside me. The fact that every person in this county knows, if something needs to be built, they come to me. That's self-reliance. Not a bunker. A reputation. Chapter 5. The homesteader pushes back. What good is a reputation when there's no rule of law? In Argentina, it got dark fast. Businesses were looted. Factory owners fled the country, wired their money abroad overnight, and showed up the next morning to find their workers waiting at locked doors. 200 factories were occupied by their own employees, because the owners had simply vanished. And what happened to those factories? The workers ran them. Some of them still are. They formed cooperatives. They kept producing. They kept each other employed. The builder smiles. Slowly. So the workers who survived the collapse were the ones who knew how to do something useful and had people around them who needed it done. He looks at the homesteader. That sounds like exactly what I just said. Chapter 6. The strongest argument. The homesteader has one more card to play. Here's what you're missing. Those workers only survived because they had something physical to work with. A factory, machines, raw materials, the bankers, the fund managers, the people whose entire skill was moving numbers on a screen. They had nothing to fall back on. When the screen went dark, their skills were worthless. So you're saying self-reliance requires tangible skills. I'm saying self-reliance requires skills that exist without electricity. The builder nods slowly. That's a stronger argument than the chickens. Chapter 7. Xenophon the homesteader stares at the tree line. You know what Xenophon said. The builder raises an eyebrow. Xenophon, Greek philosopher, soldier, economist, wrote the oldest surviving book on economics. Roughly 2,400 years ago, he said, the same thing can be property or not property, depending on whether the owner knows how to use it. A horse is wealth to a man who can ride it. Land is wealth to a man who can farm it. Money itself is not wealth if you don't know how to use it. That's exactly my point, the builder replies. Self-reliance isn't about what you own. It's about what you can do. Your 40 acres are only self-reliance if you know how to work them. My business is only self-reliance if I can adapt when the rules change. And neither one of us is self-reliant if we can't find a doctor when we're bleeding. Chapter 8. The answer. So what does self-reliance actually mean? The builder thinks for a long time. 3 things. 1. You can do something useful with your hands that people need, whether the power is on or not. 2. You belong to a community of people who can do things you can't. 3. You own enough of the physical world that nobody can cut you off from your own survival with a keystroke. The homesteader looks at his land, then back at the builder. That's not what I thought you were going to say. It's not what I thought I was going to say either. Closing. Narrator returns 2,400 years ago. Xenophon wrote that agriculture is the mother of all the other arts. When farming thrives, every other trade flourishes. When the land lies barren, the other arts wither too. He wasn't talking about farming. He was talking about the foundation, the layer, underneath everything else that keeps working. When the layers above it fail, self-reliance isn't a bunker. It isn't a balance sheet. It's the layer that still works when the next layer up goes dark.